Discover the 3 hidden fears that transform your night. An inspiring documentary revealed Nora felt the sharp edges of fluorescent lights glaring down on her as she walked the endless corridor of the hospital, her footsteps echoing against the sterile tiles. The bitter scent of antiseptic hung in the air like a lingering shadow, pushing her deeper into the realm of self-doubt. It was in moments like these, amidst the soft hum of medical machines and muffled voices, that the weight of her life pressed down harder than ever. As a night shift nurse, she had dedicated herself to tending to the forgotten and the lost. Yet the more she poured into her patients, the more she feared the emptiness it left behind for her children. Emma and Jack needed her too, but was she truly enough for either? Each face she encountered blurred her own identity as a mother. The ghosts of patients raced through her mind, each one a reminder of the stories left untold, the potential unfulfilled. The pang of inadequacy clenched her heart. What if she couldn't give her children the future they deserved? What kind of mother would she be if their dreams faded like the dying light from her shift? With each weary step, whispers of doubt crawled into her thoughts. "You're failing them," they murmured, sharp and accusatory, echoing through the silence that stretched around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The inky darkness deepened as she approached Frank's room, the patient whose frail hand held her heart. He was a relic of histories stitched together, a compass pointing to a path she yearned to understand. But even in their late-night conversations, where he recounted tales of love and loss, there hung an inescapable thread of despair. His whispers nudged her to confront the truths she hid from herself, igniting a flickering light of hope amidst her disarray. Was the essence of living truly about connection, as he suggested, or was she fated to measure everything against the legacy of hard work that suffocated her dreams? But each visit with Frank brought a wave of emotional comfort swallowed by an onslaught of crises at the hospital. Lives teetered on the edge: accidents, heartbreak, illness, all demanding her attention, while her children grew restless in the waiting arms of the night. Every beep of the machines, every panicked call from a doctor, weighed heavier on her shoulders. With each night that flew by, Nora's mental fog thickened, threatening to wrap her in its suffocating embrace. What if Frank's insights couldn't tether her from the turmoil waiting to swallow her whole? In this merciless storm of duty and maternal love, a breaking point loomed like a distant storm, ready to breach her frail defenses. She caught her breath, muscles tightening in anticipation, struggling against the ocean of emotions threatening to sweep her away. Now faced with a decision, torn between the need for stability and the instinct to shatter the chains of anxiety that imprisoned her, she queued in uncertainty. Could she emerge victorious from this internal battle, or was she destined to drown in regret? The fluorescent lights remained an unyielding presence as Nora's thoughts raced, caught in a brutal cycle of worry and reflection. This night felt different. It carried a palpable energy, a sense of inevitability that gnawed at her insides. As she stepped into Frank's room, the dimness wrapped around her like a comforting shroud, contrasting sharply with the chaos outside. She inhaled slowly, the faint smell of antiseptic replaced by the earthy scent of the small potted plant Frank kept by his bedside. It was an incongruous sight within the clinical boundaries of the hospital, yet here it was, a small symbol of life amidst the struggle. His eyes met hers, tired yet filled with an understanding that bypassed words. In that moment, she felt a flicker of resolve, a reminder that every connection she formed mattered more than her self-imposed doubts. "Frank," she said softly, drawing closer, "how are you feeling tonight?" "Better, but I think I need a dose of your authenticity more than medicine, Nora." His voice was raspy yet somehow warm, like an old blanket on a cold night. "What weighs on you tonight?" Nora hesitated, instinctively pushing back the swirling tempest within. But she had learned from him sometimes vulnerability was the strongest armor. I'm afraid. Afraid I'm losing myself in this work. My kids, I feel like I'm failing them while I'm here trying to save others. Frank's gaze didn't waver. It was steadier than the machines monitoring his vitals. You're not failing them by caring for others. Remember, they see you transforming lives even when you feel invisible. His words hung in the air, piercing the fog of self-doubt. Perhaps the measure of a mother wasn't solely in constant presence but also in the lessons learned through sacrifice and resilience. Yet the nagging question remained. How to balance that while keeping her own dreams alive? With the clock ticking, Nora's internal battle intensified. What about her aspirations? Every moment spent nursing was another moment her own dreams faded. She realized that she needed confrontation not of Frank's deep wisdom, but of her own perspective. It was time to reclaim parts of herself she had buried under duty. Pushing aside her unease, she pulled out her phone and scrolled through old photographs. Pictures of her before motherhood, vibrant and ambitious, swam before her eyes. A passionate woman, driven by a purpose beyond others' expectations. It stirred something within her. Frank, what if I could weave my life back together? She asked, leveling her gaze with his. What if I could actually pursue that art therapy course I've always dreamed of while nursing? He smiled, a glint of pride lighting up his eyes. Do you think it's too late? The dread that had tightened its grip began to loosen. No, the word escaped her before she could overthink it. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that it's okay to want more for myself. Then let us chart a course, he said, his tone now almost conspiratorial. Suiting actions to words, Nora took a deep breath and opened her notes app, drafting a plan to make space in her life for art therapy. This wasn't just a faint flicker of desire. It was a renaissance of her spirit. As determination surged through her veins, a siren wailed in the distance, pulling her back to reality. An urgent call crackled over the intercom, reminding her of the immediate demands awaiting her. The crucial balance still eluded her, but for the first time, she felt equipped to fight for both her role as a caregiver and her identity as an artist. Leaves crunched underfoot as she stepped out of Frank's room, resolute yet pensive. Balancing two worlds would not be easy. Little did she know, her journey was just beginning, and shadows of doubt lingered. With the stakes now higher, she would have to confront not just her fears but those lurking ambitions she had long since silenced. As she headed toward the nurse's station, her heart raced with an exhilarating thought. What if she could transform not just her own narrative, but inspire other nurses like her? The time had come to face the shadows within her, to reclaim what had always belonged to her. Little did she know that the real challenge would not just be about time management but the fierce resistance from within her own heart. Would she have the strength to confront those fears, or would they stop her transformation before it even began? The night air felt cool against Nora's skin as she made her way to the nurse's station, but warmth ignited in her chest. Each footstep echoed her determination, steady in its rhythm. Her thoughts raced as she approached her colleagues, but instead of feeling part of the chaos, she found herself standing at a threshold between the nurse who cared for others and the artist yearning to be reborn. What's the matter, Nora? You look like you just saw a ghost, Jenna, a fellow nurse joked, her voice pulling Nora back to the present. I'm just thinking, Nora replied, anxiety creeping in. Would sharing her ambitions unlock encouragement or skepticism? About what? Spill it. You know we're all ears. Jenna leaned against the counter, her playful demeanor never failing to uplift the gloom of their night shifts. Nora hesitated, but felt the comforting magnetism of vulnerability that she had initiated with Frank. About an art therapy course, she said, brimming with both excitement and trepidation. A few of her co-workers looked stunned. Art therapy? Interesting, but that take a lot of your time? Jenna's face lit up with curiosity, though doubt lingered in her eyes. Yeah, it will, but it's something I really want. I think it could help me and the patients I work with. The words tumbled out, punctuated by an underlying urgency. At that moment, Nora realized the crux of her dilemma was not just a matter of time but the fear of stepping beyond the boundaries set by those around her, especially by herself. The challenge wasn't merely logistical. It was about navigating the inner landscape rife with traditional expectations. Jenna's brow furrowed. Nora, you're a great nurse. Are you sure you want to take a risk with a career shift? Nora felt the familiar grip of self-doubt tightening around her, but she pushed back. What if taking that risk could enhance both my nursing and art? She paused, letting her thoughts settle. I want to bring healing through creativity. Could change lives. Jenna nodded slowly, recognizing the depth of Nora's conviction. You have a point. Just be careful, all right? Careful. The word bounced around in Nora's mind as she returned to her task, now shadowed by the underlying anxiety that perhaps she shouldn't stir the waters she had grown accustomed to. Yet something deeper opposed compliance, a burgeoning desire to confront the fears taunting her spirit. As she glanced at the clock, realization struck. Time was moving, and so was she, or so she hoped. What would this course bring, not only for her career but for her identity? The fear of failure tugged at her, but intertwined within it was the fear of inaction, a dreadful specter that loomed over her, threatening to choke her ambition as her shift ended. Nora gathered her belongings with a newfound sense of urgency. She felt the flicker of a flame growing inside. Planning and dreaming harmonized into a singular purpose. She could make time for both. The contrarieties of being a devoted nurse and an aspiring artist didn't have to be mutually exclusive. Yet as she stepped out into the night, the weight of expectations still hung in her mind. Would her colleagues rally behind her? Would her family understand this evolution? In the quiet after her shift, Nora knew she would have to make her case. Her passion would likely receive mixed reactions, safety nets ripped away in favor of vulnerability. It was time to confront a different challenge, the ones who knew her best. The streets lay ahead, illuminated by a soft glow, and with each step, anticipation grew heavier. She would share her aspirations, but the real challenge loomed. How would those she loved respond to the open book of her ambition? As she prepared to face her family and lay bare her dreams, doubt nestled deep within her mind, a whisper urging her to reconsider. Would she emerge stronger from this confrontation or more fragile than ever? The weight of her choices hung suspended in the air like the intoxicating fragrance of earth after rain, full of promise yet laden with possibility. With trepidation pushing her forward, she took a deep breath and rang the doorbell, bracing herself for the responses to come. In that moment, Nora understood she was on the cusp of transformation, but would it lead to liberation or heartbreak? The door swung open, and Nora's mother stood there, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. Nora took a moment to steady her breathing before stepping inside, each heartbeat echoing the tension that filled the air. Nora, you're home late. Everything okay? Her mother's inquiry carried a weight of expectation, but as soon as she crossed the threshold, the familiar sense of home felt suffocating. Each detail framed pictures on the walls. Hand-knitted throws reminded her of what she was about to challenge. Yeah, just I've been thinking about something, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her father joined them, his brow furrowing with an amalgamation of curiosity and apprehension. He gestured toward the living room. You want to talk about it? Come sit down. As they settled in the cozy space, Nora felt the rush of uncertainties flood her mind, pushing against her resolve. She glanced around, seeking the reassurance of familiar faces, and when they met her gaze, she knew she had to lay down the truth no matter how unsettling it felt. I've been thinking about pursuing an art therapy course, she blurted, the words flowing out like an unexpected torrent. She watched as their expressions shifted from bafflement to a cautious concern. Art therapy? Why that? You've dedicated yourself to nursing, Nora. Are you sure this isn't just a phase? Her mother's voice wavered, a combination of disbelief and instinctive protection. The question pierced through Nora's facade. It's not a phase, Mom. I want to explore how creativity can foster healing not just for myself but for my patients too. She felt a spark inside her, igniting the courage she had mustered on the way. I believe art can lead to profound healing experiences. Her father cleared his throat, which echoed through the stillness, and spoke with a measured tone. I get where you're coming from, but think about where you are now. Nursing is a stable career, one you've excelled in. Is it wise to risk that for something so uncertain? Each word hit like cold water, dousing the flame within her. Would she be scrutinized if she chose to tread this new path? Yet beneath their concerns, she sensed a yearning for understanding. Feeling the tension coil and tighten around her gut, she responded with challenges dancing on her tongue. But what if this could bring me closer to my true self? Isn't fulfillment worth the risk? An unsettling silence enveloped the room as she observed their expressions, searching for the support she so desperately craved. Gradually, she saw the glimmer of acknowledgement, a shift in their perspective caused by her conviction and the raw unveiling of her dreams. Okay, let us say you really want to dive into this, her dad replied finally, a hint of resolve entering his voice. What's the plan? It's not just about wanting to do it, you need a strategy. Nora paused, knowing he was right. The psychological shift was like a key turning in a lock. She felt the walls of uncertainty begin to crack. I've already looked into programs. It won't be easy, but I can manage my time. I want to incorporate art into my nursing practice. I believe it could open new ways for patients to communicate their feelings, she added, catching her breath as her voice steadied. Nora saw them processing her words, doubt overshadowed by a flicker of hope her vulnerability might bridge the gap between her aspirations and their expectations. Still, an unmistakable knot twisted in her stomach. She needed more than their approval. She needed to believe in her capacity to balance both nursing and her new passion. Just remember to evaluate your choices carefully, her mother finally said, her tone softening as the conversation waned. Nora felt an exhilarating blend of fear and excitement surge through her. This was an awakening, and despite the questions lingering in the air, she was unearthing parts of herself she had long buried. Stepping outside with a renewed sense of purpose, the cool air refreshed her resolve. Yet, as she walked down the familiar streets, an unsettling thought slipped in. Could her relationships withstand this inevitable transformation? With new determination shaping her path, she realized she would have to confront not only her ambitions, but the unsettling prospect of navigating inevitable resistance from those she loved. What new challenges awaited her as she ventured into this uncharted territory? The journey had just begun, and the horizon whispered of unexpected trials ahead. Nora's steps echoed softly against the pavement, each thud marking both a resolution and an anxiety that churned within her. The air had shifted. It felt denser, fuller, as if carrying whispers of both memories and the weight of expectations. As she strolled through the streets of her neighborhood, the question loomed: how would her family react the next time they met? Would they see her newfound ambition as an act of maturity or a reckless gamble? Her thoughts spiraled back to her nursing work. The rapport she had built with her patients was solid, a testament to the years of dedication she had put in. Yet, the image of her art project swirled tantalizingly in her mind. The vibrant splashes of paint and the therapeutic sessions she envisioned mirrored the healing touch of her medical practice. Was it truly possible to blend these two worlds? Digging deeper, she felt the roots of doubt entwine her ambition. What if she failed? What if the journey exposed flaws she had been unaware of? Her nights had been restless, haunted by visions of an empty canvas. Could creativity be the fertile ground that transformed her career, or was it merely an escape? Deciding to confront these fears, she found her way to the local library. It was a comforting hub of familiarity where stories bloomed like flowers in spring, nourishing her thirst for knowledge. As she sat down with a notebook, flipping through the various art therapy resources, a thought crystallized. She needed to write down her fears. Unpacking her emotions might illuminate hidden pathways. She jotted down her thoughts, letting them flow with raw honesty. Fear of failure. If I pursue art therapy, what if I'm not good enough? Fear of judgment. What if my peers in nursing belittle this passion? Fear of abandonment. Will my parents view my dreams as childish and distance themselves? With each fear articulated, a counterpoint emerged, grounding her spiraling worries in realism. What if her mistakes became lessons instead of failures? What if her journey inspired others to embrace their creative sides? What if she found herself standing taller because of the choice to leap? Each thought provided a counterweight, reshaping her apprehensions into sources of strength. That as she organized her notes, a realization struck her. These fears didn't have to be paralysis. They could fuel her drive to prove herself. Nora leaned back in her chair, the tension of her day-to-day existence in nursing and her ambitions clashing like waves. All of a sudden, a wave of clarity washed over her. This journey wasn't about erasing her identity as a nurse. It was about expanding it. After completing her notes, she looked at the rows of art therapy books lined up on the shelf. They beckoned her to delve deeper into a world that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Determined, she checked out a few titles, the weight of them a comforting reminder that her pursuit was rooted in knowledge, not just whimsical dreams. Exiting the library, the cool evening air now felt different. It no longer clung to her like a heavy cloak but rather embraced her like a blanket of potential. But there remained another daunting question unanswered. How would she tell her colleagues? How would they react when her ambition unfolded beyond the familiar walls of nursing? With a burgeoning sense of both anticipation and trepidation, Nora reached for her phone, grimacing at the prospect of sharing this pivotal moment with her colleagues. The moment had arrived to not only chase her dreams, but also face the critical voices that added pressure to her journey. As she prepared to send a group message about her new path, her heart raced at the uncertainty of how it might be received. Would they rally around her, or would this choice push them away? In that moment of decision, she drew a deep breath, ready to confront yet another layer of her unfolding journey, and prepared herself for the potential fallout. Would this be an empowering step toward self-discovery or a painful reckoning? With her finger hovering over the send button, she knew one thing. She was more than ready to embrace whatever came next. Nora's heart thudded in her chest as she pondered the implications of her message. It felt as if the phone had become a live wire, pulsing with the energy of a million unspoken thoughts. She took another deep breath and summoned the courage to hit send. The notification chimed, reverberating through the silence of her apartment. The moment stretched, suspended in uncertainty. Responses poured in almost immediately, each ping a cascade of different emotions. Some were supportive, cheers that warmed her heart, while others were dipped in skepticism. A few raised eyebrows from colleagues she'd considered friends. The contrast unsettled her even more than she anticipated. Nora scrolled through the messages, feeling a mix of pride and vulnerability. Did they truly understand her vision, or were they merely placating her with hollow encouragement? She couldn't shake the thoughts pricking at her. Perhaps she had underestimated how deeply ingrained the skepticism in nursing was, rooted in the very essence of the profession: logic, science, and evidence. Here she was, attempting to intertwine creativity with healing, painting a picture that was both personal and professional. "Well, you do what you want," one response read, laced with a dismissive tone that cut deeper than she expected. "Just make sure you don't lose your skills in the process. Patients need practical care, not..." Whatever this is, Nora's stomach churned, ridden with self-doubt. The sting of judgment made her question her path anew. Could she really strike a balance between art and caregiving? Or was this a foolish endeavor that might jeopardize her nursing career? She had seen countless students struggle, torn between their passions and the stark realities of their chosen fields. Was she setting herself up for similar failure? No, she couldn't let this discourage her. Nora clutched the art therapy books tightly to her chest, anchoring herself. There had to be a way to prove her doubters wrong, to integrate passion into her practice. As she paced her living room, the question returned. How could she bridge the gap between nursing and art therapy? Gathering her resolve, she mapped out a plan. She would start small trial workshops for her patients, combining simple artistic expression with therapeutic conversations. The notion ignited her spirit, filling the air with a sense of purpose. She could approach nursing in a new light, integrating the modality she envisioned without losing her identity in the field. Diving into her resources, she devoured information, jotting down ideas and crafting outlines. She added prompts for artistic expression that mirrored the emotional healing she had witnessed in her patients over the years. The hours slipped by unnoticed, each stroke of the pen drawing her closer to a place of clarity. Yet with excitement came lingering fear. Would her colleagues dismiss her efforts as a fad? More critically, would her patients engage with an activity so foreign to their experience? How could she handle potential criticism if the workshops didn't resonate? Nora wrestled with these looming uncertainties as she sifted through her notes. As the initial enthusiasm began to wane, she confronted another realization. Her hidden competency was not solely her artistic talent, but rather her ability to connect with others through their stories. Each patient she had encountered had taught her the invaluable lesson of vulnerability. If she could share her challenges and convey the duality of her journey, perhaps others would be inspired as well. Determined, she reached for her phone again, more calculated this time. It was time to inform her patients about her workshops, edging her closer to memory-filled moments of artistic expression, a space where she would heal alongside them. Would unveiling this new chapter fortify her connections or unravel them? With resolve, she opened a new message. Each word she typed felt both reassuring and audacious. Her finger hovered over the send button once more, grounding her thoughts in the weight of shared experience. This was a leap into the unknown, not just for herself, but for the very lives she sought to touch. Suddenly, anticipation surged through her, weaving a new tension within her thoughts. The moment held the potential to redefine connections, bringing forth the very change she sought. But it also carried the risk of being unaccepted, a maze of reactions she couldn't control. Nora steadied her breath, nudging forward on the precipice of something new. The wave of uncertainty crested higher. What awaited her on the other side of this leap? Drawing her resolve tight, she pressed send and felt every heartbeat amplify the questions that danced in her mind, each a flickering signal within the haze of possibility. What awaited her after this step into the unknown? The silence in the room felt heavier now, like a thick fog settling around her. Nora stared at her phone, uncertain of what would follow her bold message. Each chime that filled the air was a reminder of the impending feedback loop, an echo of her aspirations clashing with her fears. She imagined her patients reading her invitation to the workshops. Would they embrace the idea, or would they view it with doubt? Within moments, the first reply lit up the screen. A patient, Sarah, urged her with enthusiasm. "I'm excited for this, Nora. You've always been so good at seeing the bigger picture. Count me in." The endorsement flickered warmth through Nora, igniting her hope. But before she could bask in it, the insistent drumbeat of anxiety returned. What if Sarah's optimism was merely a lone voice in a sea of criticism? What if her other patients felt mistrust or worse, apathy toward something that felt so divorced from traditional care? Those doubts flared in her mind, battling against her growing motivation as days passed and the workshop date approached. Nora threw herself into preparation. Each day began with a fresh resolve, a promise to fine-tune her approach. She crafted activities that would blend her nursing skills with art, sketching sessions aimed at expressing emotions, group storytelling to coax out hidden feelings, and mindfulness practices to ground everyone in the moment. It was a delicate dance between her past training and the creative elements she wanted to introduce. Yet her internal struggle expanded. One particular morning, as she prepared a presentation for her colleagues to explain her workshops, she was gripped by a paralyzing fear. What would they think of her? Would they see this as whimsical, a distraction from the serious nature of nursing? Vivid images of dismissive glances and condescending nods swirled in her mind, taunting her. The confrontation loomed, a moment she had to face, a necessary threshold she could no longer avoid. She decided to swallow those fears for a moment, channeling them into her work instead. The tension turned into a crucible of creativity. Each aspect of her workshops became imbued with intention, a lifeline to her patients who might yearn for a new way of expressing their pain or joy. What transformed in her mind was the realization that these workshops were not peripheral to her nursing career. They were the apotheosis of it. Would that revelation resonate with her colleagues? Was it possible they would come to understand her approach as an evolution of nursing, rather than a distraction? Each question left jagged lines of uncertainty across her path. On the eve of the workshop's launch, she weighed her options. Sending an invitation to the nursing staff for an open discussion about her goals could either usher them into her world or deepen the chasm between their views. She paused, fingers hovering over the phone screen once more. What if they refused to understand, even when she laid out the benefits? Her stomach tightened at the prospect of judgment. Fear threatened to choke her resolve yet again. Amidst that torrent, Nora remembered a vital truth, one that had carried her through the challenges of nursing. Fear signals growth, not failure. With fresh determination, she pressed send. This would be her moment of truth, and not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever doubted the intersection of art and care. The response was swift. Supportive messages flooded in. But one reply, a terse dismissal from a colleague she respected, arrived like a stone sinking in her heart. Nora, focus on what matters. Art therapy doesn't belong in a clinical environment. The ripple of disappointment cascaded through her. Did they really not see the power of art? The sting ignited a newfound sense of purpose deep within her now more than ever. She had to prove that healing extended beyond the physical. There she stood at the threshold of a transformation, not only for her patients but for herself. The potential conflict with her colleagues now met an epicenter of passion within her. Would this journey of integrating art into healing tear her world apart or redefine it for the better? The answer began to ignite new questions. How could she navigate this intersection of art and care without losing herself along the way? As the evening drew to a close, a restless anticipation surged within her, mingled with trepidation. Tomorrow would be the test of her vision, and at that moment, Nora understood deeply that intention often invites scrutiny, but it also opens doors bellows of creativity. What storm awaited her as she stepped out of the shadows of doubt? As dawn broke, Nora awoke to an unsettling mixture of adrenaline and questioning. The moment she had envisioned for weeks was finally here. She lay in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, replaying past failures and imagining potential triumphs. The room around her felt constricted, a bubble that protected her from the outside world, yet threatened to explode with expectations. After a quick shower, she reflected on the considerable work she had put into planning her workshop. This wasn't just a new approach to patient care, it was a testament to her capabilities, a manifestation of her deeper understanding as a nurse. Yet, the looming dread of judgment resurfaced. Would it be enough? She felt the weight of uncertainty pressing against her chest as she dressed, each clothing choice seeming to carry the burden of her ambition. Arriving at the clinic, Nora was greeted by a handful of early bird staff members. Their whispers and cautious smiles felt like a kaleidoscope of curiosity mixed with skepticism. She sensed the tension hanging in the air as she prepared, moving to her designated room that now stood stark and bare, every inch echoing her dilemma. The door swung open, and colleagues trickled in, their faces a medley of muted interest. Nora's heart raced as she navigated between welcoming her peers and grappling with the looming confrontation. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the knowledge that she deserved to be there, that her insights had validity, that this approach could indeed alter lives. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "I know we usually focus primarily on physical health, but today, I hope to illustrate how emotional and artistic expression can also serve as a pathway to healing." Silence lingered for a moment, and she continued, detailing her plans for the workshops. With every word, she poured her passion into their eyes, aiming to ignite some flicker of understanding. The weight of the earlier dismissal hung heavily on her mind, but she pushed it aside, channeling the energy into her presentation. She wanted to turn doubt into curiosity, but as she laid out her vision, the pushback began. Voices joined the silence, rational arguments that pointed to clinical guidelines, patient safety protocols, and the necessity for structured care. Her chest tightened as they dissected her idea, each critique layered upon her feeling of ambition. Did they truly believe so little in her vision? Nora felt the heat of frustration rise within her. Yet, from that friction emerged clarity. "I appreciate your concerns, but what if we're missing an opportunity? What if integrating art can bridge gaps in communication unmet by traditional methods?" She looked around, searching for any nodding heads, any flicker of hope that a spark resided somewhere in this room, perhaps buried under skepticism. But it was there. She continued, presenting data on holistic healing, emphasizing how art had positively influenced patient outcomes elsewhere. As she spoke, something shifted in a colleague close to her. The dismissive attitude softened as she squinted thoughtfully at the charts Nora had laid out. Could she be reaching them even just a bit? The thought invigorated Nora, reaffirming that her journey was worth pursuing. Regardless of the hurdles, her voice rang with determination. This isn't just about art. It's about enhancing care, fostering connections, and healing in ways we have barely begun to explore together. The meeting concluded with unanswered questions that buzzed in the air like static electricity. Some colleagues remained skeptical, while others appeared to reconsider pondering what Nora had laid before them. She stood amid that uncertainty, feeling more empowered than ever. Within the calm that followed the storm, Nora recognized a deeper revelation. The conflict she faced was not merely with her colleagues, but within herself, a challenge against doubt that gnawed at her resolve. It became evident that this path had never only been about art. It was about self-acceptance and redefining what nursing could be. As she walked back to her office later, purpose surged through her, stronger than before. The echo of voices persisted, each a reminder of barriers she had to face. Yet, amidst all the noise, one thing was clear. She was ready to navigate both criticism and support to uncover a new facet of healing. Each step brought with it new questions, a new fire ignited within. How would she maintain that resolve in the face of ongoing skepticism? The next round of challenges loomed, not just about proving her method, but about embracing the complexity of her growth as a nurse as she settled into her desk, ready to plan her next move. Another email notification flashed on her screen, catching her off guard. It was from Sarah, her enthusiastic patient, with a subject line that read, "Let us create something beautiful together." What did Sarah want to propose? Would her interest open a door to greater collaboration, or lead Nora into unexplored territory? The uncertainty danced before her, begging for resolution. Nora couldn't shake the unease coursing through her as she opened Sarah's email. The words danced on the screen, promising a fusion of creativity and connection. Let us create something beautiful together. The phrase echoed in her mind, but instead of excitement, it ignited a different kind of fear, one that questioned her ability to lead, engage, and truly innovate. What if she wasn't the right person to guide Sarah's vision? With every passing moment, doubt crept back in. She had barely felt secure in her own workshop's concept amidst her colleagues' skepticism. What if this collaboration only highlighted her inadequacies? The very thought made her pulse quicken. Despite her initial resolve, the nagging feelings of self-doubt loomed larger. Determined to push away those thoughts, Nora sat at her desk and read the email a second time. Sarah spoke about her passion for art therapy and her desire to explore mural painting as a therapeutic outlet for patients dealing with anxiety and depression. Nora's instinct was to ignite that passion, to help others through creative expression, but she hesitated. "Are you open to discussing this further?" Sarah had written, ending her email with an indisputable note of hope. It was genuine, raw, and filled with possibility, yet the weight of expectation hung over Nora. She tapped her fingers against the desk, her mind racing. Could she truly take on this endeavor with the same zeal she had for her workshop? The prospect of failure loomed ominously like a shadow ready to snuff out her spark. Setting the email aside, she took a deep breath and began to scribble down her mixed emotions: nervous excitement, hopes for collaboration, and the palpable fear of inadequacy. Writing had always been her outlet, a way to make sense of the whirlwind in her head. As words poured onto the page, a realization began to crystallize. Stepping into Sarah's world meant embracing vulnerability, not only for herself but for those she might reach. The following day, Nora found herself pacing around the clinic, a swirl of thoughts grappling with each other. She couldn't deny how the idea of combining art and nursing felt right. It was about healing, connection, and breaking free from traditional confines. Perhaps this was the very evolution she had sought. She could lead with her instincts, even if it meant facing criticism. After gathering her thoughts, she finally replied to Sarah, her fingers moving decisively across the keyboard. "I would love to discuss this further and explore the possibilities." She hit send, her heart pounding. Once the email disappeared into the digital ether, she felt a sense of relief mingled with trepidation. It was a step forward, even if she wasn't entirely sure where it would lead. Later that week, Nora met Sarah at an art studio, a bright, airy space filled with canvases and vibrant colors. The layout invigorated her, but the moment she stepped inside, self-doubt resumed its place in her mind. Was she capable of not just following but also shaping this vision? The art studio contrasted sharply with the clinical world she inhabited, but it also represented the very canvas on which her future could be painted. The two began discussing ideas, and Sarah's enthusiasm was contagious. As each suggestion gleamed with potential, Nora caught herself drifting between excitement and hesitation, analyzing her ideas through the fog of uncertainty. Dozens of questions battled for prominence. Would they really connect with other patients? What if their efforts fell flat? Each fear crept into her thoughts, yet with each answer, a glimmer of inspiration surfaced. Their conversation shifted to practicalities, developing a tentative plan to create an art therapy program. As Nora actively contributed her knowledge of patient care alongside Sarah's artistic vision, clarity emerged. This collaboration became not just a project but a shared journey of growth, one that pushed her beliefs and skills to the forefront. Still, a nagging sensation lingered in her mind. How would they navigate the complexities of the clinical setup? Could they do so while being heard and respected? The apprehension threatened to steal the joy of creation, but a new determination surfaced alongside it. Reflecting on this partnership, Nora recognized that this wasn't just about leading a workshop anymore. It was about engaging in an enriching experience that both terrified and excited her. The collaboration became a means to challenge herself and redefine her perspective on healing, taking her deeper into an unexplored territory of possibilities. With each meeting and creative brainstorming session, Nora felt her resolve strengthening. Yet the underlying anxieties were there, waiting to be confronted. What they were attempting was unprecedented, but if they truly wanted to evoke change, risks were necessary. As she sharpened her vision and plans for the potential program, she realized her journey had only just begun. With her heart set on this new horizon, she pondered how far she could stretch her own boundaries. What awaited them in this endeavor? Would her efforts spark interest and change, or would the fear of failure threaten to derail her ambitions? The art studio glimmered with the echoes of her emerging confidence, but lingering doubts whispered through her mind. Would they overcome the hurdles ahead? It had become clear change was imminent, but at what cost? As she stood amidst paint-splattered canvases, the uncertainty loomed larger than the colors around her, waiting for a moment to unfold. Nora stood at the edge of a new dawn, a vibrant tapestry of transformation woven from art, healing, and the unwavering will to reclaim her identity. The days that followed her collaboration with Sarah solidified her resolve, each meeting blossoming into a potent blend of creativity and patient care. The art therapy program took on a life of its own, each brushstroke guiding patients not only toward emotional release but also towards a deeper connection with themselves. As the launch day approached, the excitement buzzed in the air, electrifying her spirit. This was no longer merely an experiment. It was an affirmation of her beliefs, an opportunity to intertwine her duties as a nurse with her passion for art. The mural project became a living canvas of stories, each stroke representing a journey of healing and self-discovery. Nora felt the weight of her earlier self-doubts dissipate, replaced with the confidence that she was indeed capable of redefining healing. When the day arrived, she stood before a diverse group of patients, her heart racing with anticipation. The room was infused with the colors of hope, brushes in hands and palettes vibrant with potential. "Today we will create," she announced, her voice steady with purpose. "Each color you choose speaks your truth. Through this workshop, let us unlock emotions that often remain hidden." Nora guided them gently, weaving her nursing acumen with the therapeutic potential of art, fostering an atmosphere of openness. Each patient revealed layers of their stories, and with those revelations came unexpected catharsis. One by one, walls crumbled, replaced with expressions that transcended words. She witnessed profound moments of connection that went beyond her professional aspirations. This was healing in its most raw and beautiful form as the mural slowly filled with expressive colors and stories. Nora felt her doubts transforming into sources of strength. The collage of emotions represented not just her patient's journeys but her own evolution. The assimilation of two worlds that once felt so disparate became manifest in the splashes across the canvas. Acclaim soon followed. Feedback from colleagues began to shift. To her surprise, they observed the tangible impact her sessions had on patient recovery, sparking curiosity rather than doubt. Discussions arose around integrating creative expression into overall treatment plans, opening doors that had previously felt securely shut. Validation emerged, not just from success, but from the genuine connection forged between artistic expression and patient healing. One evening, as she sat reviewing the mural's progress, a message from her supervisor arrived, commending her for her innovative approach. The support she received felt surreal. It solidified her place not only as a compassionate nurse but also as a pioneer within her field, reshaping how care could encompass creativity. Her fears transformed into accolades as she stood recognized, no longer merely a caregiver but a facilitator of holistic healing. In those moments of recognition, Nora saw how far she had journeyed from the shadows of doubt that once haunted her to the light of professional affirmation. She had cast aside the apprehension of failure, realizing that vulnerability was not weakness. It was strength. Each workshop brought forth not just her artistic aspirations but a deeper understanding of being a mother and a patient advocate entwined. With her two roles now harmonizing, Nora reflected on the bond between nursing and art. It was not just about caring for others. It was about nurturing herself through the authenticity of her passion. She smiled, knowing she didn't have to sacrifice one for the other. Instead, they supported and enlivened her, providing a renewed sense of purpose, confidence, and fulfillment as she completed the mural. A vibrant tapestry of healing surrounded her. It served as a testament to the possibilities that emerged when one dared to confront their fears and blend their passions. With each colorful stroke, she proved to herself that she could conquer not just her internal battles but create joyous ripples in the lives of others. That night, surrounded by the vibrant mural and with her heart resolute, Nora stood tall, ready to face whatever challenge lay ahead. The intersection of art and care had transformed her, shining a spotlight on the healer she had always aspired to be. It was a moment of resounding triumph. She had embraced the fullness of her journey and opened the door to limitless potential. This was her achievement: to integrate her passions, redefine her boundaries, and inspire others to join her in the exploration of self through creative expression. Embracing her duality as a mother and a professional, she emerged with the confidence that she was absolutely enough not just for her children, but for herself. So, whether it's art, nursing, or any passion you hold dear, do not shy away from embracing the whole of who you are. It's time to rise above doubts and let your authenticity shine brightly, just like Nora did. Now is the moment to remember your own aspirations. Don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about Nora's journey. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion.